A really genuinely shocking new investigation by the Daily Telegraph has found that migrants crossing the Channel, some of them are bringing over heroin, other drugs, into Britain on behalf of the people's smugglers. Now, this is one of those good old-fashioned journalism stories that I'm so happy the Telegraph is continuing to do, because they sent some undercover reporters and they found that VIP crossings are being offered to migrants who agree to swallow packets of Class A drugs in exchange for free or cut price crossings. Also in the UK today, a judge lifted the ban on naming the child asylum seekers who both raped a teenage girl. So this was Yan Yahanzeb and Isra Nayazal, both aged 17, dragged a highly distressed 15-year-old girl into some bushes and raped her. They were sentenced at Warwick Crown Court, and it was in Leamington Spa where this poor girl was attacked. Earlier today, Elon Musk waded in. He wrote on X, "A government that fails to protect its citizens is illegitimate." So joining me now is former border security and management expert for the British government, Henry Bolton, OBE, and Simon Hankinson, Senior Research Fellow in the Border Security and Immigration Centre at the Heritage Foundation. So we have the British and the American take on this, gentlemen. So thank you so much for joining me. Henry, if I can just start with you in the UK, just your reaction to this story now that the Telegraph have this evidence of migrants coming in, swallowing drugs because they know they won't be searched.
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your personal information and financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
Yeah, I've been actually warning about this for about 11 years. In fact, more than that. It's always the case where you get organised crime smuggling people, they are going to use those people to try and facilitate their other criminal businesses. Now, there is a school of thought amongst some people, including police officers, that actually there are specialists in organised crime and so on, and that's true. But where they can mutually support each other, they always will. And where they can make an extra bang for their buck, they always will. They will exploit any opportunity to do that. That's as any successful business will do. So there is nothing new in this. And in fact, for me, the worrying thing here, Bev, is that our border agencies and our police and our intelligence agencies and the media seem to think that this is surprising. And that just goes to show how little or how unaware we are in the United Kingdom of the range of risks that are facing us, that project from outside our borders to inside our borders. It's one of the reasons our politicians in Westminster have failed, and successive governments have failed to address this problem, because they simply don't grasp the risk, because they're simply not looking beyond their own world, if you like. You could look at the same...
But honestly, I would put myself... Henry, I am one of those naive journalists who didn't know this was happening. And Simon, I think my logic would have been that presumably these people would be searched. But of course, what we're now knowing is they're swallowing the drugs and then just passing them with nature. And they've said the reason that they are able to do this is because nobody follows them into the cubicle. What kind of world are we living in, Simon, when you hear this story?
Well, we're living in a world where, 40,000 mostly young men are able to land on the British shores by small boat, and most of them get to stay. So what are the penalties? What's the risk? As Henry says, you might as well try to up your game and get as much on that dinghy as you possibly can, and that includes stuffing people with drugs. I mean, that's an old trick. The condoms filled with heroin, whether taken from the top or the bottom, is an old and trusted method of getting drugs into a country. And if they weren't checking them, if they weren't carefully monitoring the mules as they came in, it seems like a pretty good risk. You get 1 out of 2 and you make a good profit.
And Henry, what's so disappointing for me as well, that it's taken a journalist, it's taken the Daily Telegraph to shine a light on this issue. And in fact, the government said we are alive to, I think the phrase they use, we are alive to changes in this process that we may not have been aware of. Are they not aware of it?
Well, the thing is that the whole of our border architecture is lacking in coherence and coordination, lack of integration. We have got a large number of different agencies working in different dimensions of the organised criminal field, trying to sort of combat it. And they're not effective in talking to each other. The National Crime Agency, which is an iteration of what was previously the Serious Organised Crime Agency, which previously was an amalgamation of the National Criminal Intelligence Service and the National Crime Squad, is a shadow of its predecessor organisations. It's a shadow in terms of its intelligence collection, its intelligence analysis, its understanding of what is going on and the range of threats. And that's because successive governments have tried to save money left, right and centre for understandable reasons. The Treasury is under pressure, but this is the result. But then you've got a lack of organisation, because in the United Kingdom, we have had a propensity to see borders as primarily a counter-immigration tool, rather than anything else, facilitating trade and preventing illegal or managing illegal immigration. We have not looked at the plethora of other risks that we face on our borders. And as I say, Bev, I've been banging on about this for many, many years, trying to get people to listen. And I'm just not getting any traction. And it's very frustrating, because people do know this.
Well, let me bring in Simon. Henry, sorry to interrupt you. I'm just conscious we've got Simon there as well. Let me bring in Simon. What should we do from your perspective here, where Trump has actually solved your southern border crisis? What do we do, Simon?
Look, you've got to have some punishment. I mean, what's likely to happen? Let's say they find somebody with a gut full of drugs. Is he going to get deported? I imagine that'll be a point in his favor, and he'll be more likely to get asylum because he'll argue that they forced me to do it, and then he'll get to stay. If you're letting 50% at least of the people who come in illegally remain, no matter how flimsy their stories, and then of those who even get denied, none of them are being removed, or at least very few of them, there's no disincentive. Criminals react to incentives, so do illegal immigrants and illegal immigrant smugglers. And right now, sadly, the United Kingdom is where we were under the Biden administration, where all the lights are green, all the incentives are go. And until that changes, I'm afraid this is going to get worse.
Yeah, we've got President Trump
entirely agree.
Blowing up boats
I'm all for detaining these people once they cross.
Yeah, detaining them, searching them properly, presumably. And then what? If they have drugs on their person, they should just instantly not be allowed to remain.
But we don't know who 97% of these people are. We don't know their background. We know that some carry out terrorist attacks. We know that some are recruiting for terrorist purposes. We know that many are involved in organised crime. We know that many have committed offences in other European countries before they've come to the United Kingdom. And that's why they've come. So we know that. There's no argument about that, and yet we're still letting them roam the streets freely without being able to sort of to vet them. That every single one of these people should be detained securely until we can identify them, return them to whence they came, or they ask to go back, and that would also negate their ability to pass on drugs.
Do we also, Henry? Do we also know that some of them will be the kind of people with the kind of tragic story that we would always have offered refuge to? And those people are getting lumped in with these absolute wrong-uns, drug dealers, and people who come to our country and hate our country. Are there some people amongst them who we should be offering asylum to?
I can't say, Beverly, that there are none that we should be, but bearing in mind that every single one of these people who comes across on a boat or across on the ferry or through the tunnel is coming from France, having crossed somewhere like Germany, Italy, Switzerland, Austria. They're not fleeing at that point. So if that minority, I'm sorry, but if that minority aren't allowed in because we are protecting ourselves against the majority, then so be it. The first responsibility is not to these other people, it is to the safety and welfare of the people of the United Kingdom who live in these islands, and that's got to be the priority. The secondary one is indeed, as you say, genuine refugees, but they're not going to be coming across on the boats. I've dealt with refugee crises in the past, and these aren't refugees. These are economic migrants who are looking to improve their lives, and one can't blame them for trying to do so, but one can blame the British authorities for simply going along with it.
Simon, should we be just stopping immigration from certain countries like the President here is doing until we can get our house in order?
At a certain point, the supply of people who are fleeing for a better life, some of them actually genuine refugees, but most of them economic migrants, believe me, is bigger than the British Isles. There are more people out there. If you keep admitting even only 20%, 30%, 50%, eventually you're going to run out of room and you're going to run out of political patience. So yeah, do what the Australians did. They decided no one who arrived by boat could ever get successfully asylum in Australia. The numbers went from like 100,000 in a year down to 10. And now they have other problems. They've got asylum issues, but they do not have issues of large boats showing up with people trying to get into the country illegally. That's what Britain has to do. They made a half measure attempt, I think, during the Johnson administration. Never happened. But that's the only way it's ever going to stop. As long as people are playing the numbers, rolling the dice, and they're going to win half the time, they're going to keep coming, and it's never going to end.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Really interesting. Henry Bolton and Simon Hankinson there, and Simon's from the Heritage Foundation. Thanks, guys. Let me know your thoughts. I know you will. GBnews.com/your say.